At a furry convention, an entitled dad tries to force us to take his son and bring him into our private hotel room where we are having a private furry party, and we're all in our 30s. When we repeatedly reject him and his son from coming into our private furry party, the entitled dad retaliates. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. This didn't happen to me, but to a friend of mine, and the details will be as he told me the story. So long story short, my friend is a furry, and at the time was attending Midwest Fur Fest. Now, there are a ton of fun activities that attendees can partake in, and most of the panels and activities listed on the official program are totally appropriate for family and kids. That being said, like any other type of geeky convention, people will hold hotel room parties in their rooms or suites that are not a part of the official program and are not the responsibility of the convention itself. Very often, those room parties will either be gatherings of friends, or sometimes that would just be centered around certain social groups. For example, there are furries of color parties, and now there are trans room parties. And sometimes, well, there will be parties of the more adult kind, if you know what I mean. Sometimes, to attract a certain crowd, especially of the social group parties, they will advertise the room party on a board near the hotel lobby to advertise the party room's number for those who might be interested to attend. Anyway, those parties are obviously private functions, and obviously, the person who is paying for the suite or room has complete liberty of choosing who is allowed inside and who is not, especially if they are just a gathering between friends. Flash forward to Saturday evening. This is generally the biggest evening of the convention in terms of official events and room parties. My friend is hosting a room party for gay men in his suite. The attendees are all legal adults. The majority of them are their late 20s and early 30s. Nothing risque is going on. It's just a bunch of gay men together in a room, so colorful discussions and a bit of flirting / groping is happening from time to time. I mean, duh. At some point early in the evening, they hear a knock at the door. My friend goes to the door and slyly opens it to see a kid, no older than 15 or 16, standing outside the door. My friend says, hi, can I help you? Can I come in? My friend slightly giggles and says, no, this is a private party. It's not a part of the convention. Sorry. My friend then closes the door, returns to entertaining his guests. About 15 minutes is another knock at the door. This time, my friend's roommate goes to answer the door and finds the same kid standing there, and this time, he has his father with him. Yeah. The entitled dad says, yes, my son came here earlier, was refused to be let in. Well, yes, but is there a specific reason why my son can't attend this event? At this point, my friend intervenes and says, sir, this is a room party. It's not a part of the official program. Plus, your son is a teenager and everyone here is a grown man in their 30s. This would be extremely inappropriate. Don't give me that, boy. We pay full price for attendance bias. Yes, I expect my son to be able to enjoy this convention to his fullest. But that's what I'm telling you. This isn't covered by the convention ticket. This has nothing to do with what's not to understand. This party was advertised downstairs in the lobby. My friend said, the board downstairs will advertise a lot of private room parties. It's a convention thing. People organize gatherings amongst friends and social groups because they're all gathered in the same spot for the weekend. That doesn't mean it has anything to do with the convention proper. Now, please, can you leave? We've told you more than once that your son is not welcome here. My friend at this point pushes the entitled dad and his kid out and closes the door. At this point, everyone thinks the story is over, but as you know, it isn't. Sometimes entitled parents are petty. At around 11:30 p.m., a much stronger knock is heard at the door. My friend goes to open the door and is met with hotel security and a Rosemont Police Department officer. He says, what is going on? The hotel security says, sir, we've got a report of illegal activity taking place in this room. We'd like to take a quick checkup. My friend is flabbergasted, but lets the cop and the security personnel in. Of course, they find absolutely nothing weird going on. My friend says, can I at least know what this was about? This was very distressing. Hotel security says, a man came to us earlier and said that your party guests were doing illegal substances and committing acts of gross indecency by being exposed and inappropriate why other people could see them. My friend then realizes it was more than likely the entitled dad and tells the hotel security about how that dad tried to force the party attendees to let his son attend a room party full of grown male adults and how they had told them to leave repeatedly. Hotel security apologizes and my friend got a partial refund on his room to make up for the intrusion, and no more problems happened from then on. He doesn't know if anything happened to the man or his son. Was he the jerk? As many people have already pointed out, who in their right mind would leave their son unattended with a room full of adult strangers that is their private space, a space where they can lock the door? I mean, here it sounds like these people were totally fine and normal, but what if they weren't? What if it was just a random group of people where you just drop off your son and say, alright son, have fun. That's a pretty scary thought that the dad would just so easily dump him in a situation like that. What I'm guessing is that the dad is probably counting on this to be some time that he would have to himself and was hoping that this room full of strangers would babysit his kid at this furry convention. I can't really think of another explanation of why he would be so insistent to drop the kid off there, unless the kid for some reason was pushing the dad, but I don't think the dad would be that adamant about just a kid trying to push him into it. And what did the kid even think that this was? A place to make friends? Or something totally different? Maybe he thought it was the secret side of the furry convention. The Oki actually had one last day and he said that the dad was probably some kind of guy who thought that literally every single thing that was advertised at the con was family friendly and a part of the programming. I've seen this kind of reasoning before. I wouldn't be surprised if at one point he complained to the con offs about not being let into an event, only for con offs to silently shake their heads in disbelief. To be honest, this is one of the negative side effects of trying to make the furry fandom more palatable to the mainstream. Now you have families thinking it's a quirky, affordable type of Disneyland trip, and they will completely ignore the fact that the average attendees are hormonal, queer 20-somethings who will spend Saturday evening getting sloss and then dance like a bunch of spazzy morons at the rave. It's like people's common sense flies away at furry cons. So if this happened to you, let me know how you would have handled the situation down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. So to begin this story, I have to explain. I'm a college student in Portugal. Sorry if my English is 100%. I was born and raised in Azores, some little islands in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. In order to pursue college, I had to move to the mainland. For this, I had to rent an apartment. It's a good apartment, 3 rooms, 2 bathrooms, a living room, a kitchen, and it's in a quiet neighborhood, so all good. This was until they started to do construction work in the apartment above. This construction work is made by a TV show called Querido Muide Casa. That literally translates to, honey, I changed the house. It's quite famous here. They remodeled the entire house, replacing everything within it with new furniture, new floor, you get it. So they make a lot of noise. I'm not the party kind of guy, and I'm quite calm and peaceful, and I like to stay at home, have some friends here, drink a bit, play some games, etc. And I also do a lot of my college work at night in the apartment. I spend most of my day in class. So to explain this, Portugal has a law that you can make noise from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. and most of my classes start around 11 or 12, which works great for me since I go to sleep around 4 a.m. due to all the work I have to do and a little extra time for myself. They started drilling the floor at around 8 a.m. every single day. Me and my housemate were shocked by the amount of noise that they were making. We let it pass since it shouldn't take more than a week to replace the floor. I make that assumption because me and my dad did it once to our old house back on the island, but no, that noise lasted for the entire time they were there. I got a bit upset since I couldn't sleep, but I also couldn't leave the college work undone, so I decided to try and talk with them. I went upstairs to the apartment and knocked. Then came this really fat and short guy looking at me like I wasn't even there, and the conversation went like this. Hey, I'm from the apartment down below. What do you want? I was gonna ask if you guys could start drilling around 10 a.m. I'm a college student and I do most of my work at night. Sometime I only get to sleep in the morning. Is that possible? We have a job to do. You should go to sleep early if you will to sleep. He closes the door. I was pissed but remained calm. After all, it is kind of my fault if I go to bed at that time. Some time goes by and the noise continues. I get grumpier and grumpier. I call the customer service of the show. They said politely that there is nothing that they can do about it since it's in their legal rights. I should talk with the guys in the apartment so we can come to some conclusion. Weeks go by. I'm wondering, that apartment is the same size as mine. How are they taking so long? Until a glorious morning I wake up, normal routine, I go to the bathroom to take a shower, and when I turn on the light, what do I see? My bathroom full of clay, everything completely dirty, rocks everywhere, and a hole right on top of the toilet. I am furious, and my housemate arrives that morning, so I tell him about it, and he is not a calm person in these type of situations. We both go up to the upper apartment, and I convince him to let me talk. He agrees. I knock on the door, and to my surprise, it's the same fat guy, but this time, he was looking at me. You guys opened a hole in my bathroom. He interrupts and says, well, yeah, we know. We already covered our part. Okay, but what about ours? Gosh dang it, can't you fix it? I mean, you are men. Can't you fix the house? My friend is furious, but I calmly put my hand on him and keep talking. No way, you broke it, you're gonna fix it, unless we have to call the landlord and sue you and sue your show for this. Okay, we will fix it. No need to get all formal. We came back to the house and we could hear them making fun of us because of the hole. My friend is furious, but I'm calm because I already thought of a way to get back at them. A couple of days go by when they finally decided to fix the hole. Two nice guys came down and fixed it. They said they were sorry for everything. We chatted. They were cool, but my revenge was already planned. Sorry, dudes. Me and my friends have JBL speakers, the good ones that can play loud. So this is where the revenge begins. Every day I started to go to bed early now so I could be up at 8 a.m. First, I take a shower and set up for college. Then I plug both of my speakers into my laptop and search for Japanese dirty videos, you know, because Japanese girls scream like hell in a high-pitched voice. Leave the volume up at max and let it play in a loop until I get home at 6 p.m. Oh, my amusement was speechless. My housemate agreed with this since we both started to leave the apartment earlier until one day he heard a knock on the door and it was the fat guy. Hi, I don't know what you're doing, but it has to stop. We are recording today and we can't have those weird noises in the background. They record the episodes in the house so they can authenticate the sound in the house and everything. They could easily use a studio for the sound, but they are really cheap about saving money. Nah, since you are in the legal right to make noise from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., I am too. I can make the noise that I want in that period of time. Well, that will really hurt the show when you know what? People love this show. Your mother probably watches it and loves it. I tell you what, maybe, but she knows how things are around here, so she doesn't really mind. I don't really mind and the landlord doesn't mind. Can't you fix it yourself? The fat guy goes mad, starts stomping the ground as he turns around and leaves. This continues. I see the camera crew arriving from my window. They enter the apartment, knock on my door. I didn't even answer, just some loud, lewd noises all day. This goes on for 3 days straight with the camera crew, but one day, they decided to never try again. I think the episode was canceled due to the noise. The funniest part is that they make this construction free for people. The only revenue they gain is from the viewership of the episodes. It puts a smile on my face when I know that they just wasted a huge budget for nothing. Ah, sweet revenge. I know this story can be petty, but I assure you none of the construction guys took this badly. They laughed and would gladly start the noise a bit later, but the manager, the fat guy, didn't want to for some reason. They thought it was stupid. And also, when the camera crew came, I was on vacation for the week, so I was still at home, but blasting the lewd noises, wearing my headset of course so I could barely hear it. So am I the jerk for allowing my revenge to get this entire TV show episode canceled? This is pretty much a textbook situation of you reap what you sow. The first thing the guy says to them is, can't you guys fix it? I mean, you are men, can't you fix the house? So the original poster comes back later on and says, can't you fix it yourself? When the guy comes to the door and tries to say, hey, your mother probably even likes the show, please stop doing this. When people are coming to you with a reasonable request and you treat them that poorly, what do you expect is going to happen once they start retaliating and doing what they feel you've been doing to them the entire time? I guess if they really wanted to use this episode, they could have recorded the whole thing after 6. They just have to do it in a very whispered, quiet voice to make sure that nobody heard them so that they would be following the rules. Somebody actually added some information about Vince Gilligan, which most of you probably know him as the creator of Breaking Bad, or even before that he worked on the X-Files. Well, this guy said Vince Gilligan talked about paying off people who made noise. In LA, it's sort of common when on a shooting location. He told the story about a guy who got on his riding lawnmower every time they shot at a place because he knew he was going to make a couple $100s when the crew came and asked him to keep the noise down. It's almost considered a force of nature by producers out there. You know, the guy is doing it to make money, but you don't make a big stink about it. Just pay him and everyone's happy. I imagine they have a set fund aside for that sort of thing. When you consider how much production costs for TV and film can be, a couple $100s per shoot isn't that much. So let me know if you think this revenge was going too far or not, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for not wanting my fiance's grandmother, who's 98 years old, at our wedding? I'm a 28-year-old female. My 30-year-old fiance and I are getting married next month. Everything is going great, but we've been having a serious argument about having his grandmother at our wedding. We've agreed not to have kids at our wedding as we want the reception to be a huge party for your adult friends and family with dancing, loud music, and an open bar. However, for precisely the same reasons that we don't want kids there, I don't want his elderly grandmother at our wedding either. I said she can come to the ceremony, but not the reception. It will be extremely loud, and I want it to have a party atmosphere, and she will be extremely out of place. For context, none of my grandparents are still alive, and he still has his last living grandmother. This has caused a huge fight, since she says she has always dreamed about being at her grandson's wedding. He is her oldest grandchild, and she probably won't make it to the next family wedding, which is why I said that she's more than welcome at the ceremony, but she will just be too out of place at the reception. She and he both insist that she will be fine and want to go to the party, but I just know it will inevitably lead to us dealing with her and having to take care of her. I just want want to get sloshed and let loose with my friends. She's now really upset and won't talk to me, and my fiance is also angry. I think I am within my right to make this request. I am the bride after all, so am I the jerk for not wanting my fiance's grandmother to come to our wedding? This is so weird. What does she think is gonna happen? The grandmother's gonna suddenly interrupt the wedding and say, please take care of me, please. I mean, there are other people going to this wedding that are also adults. There really was something that would happen exactly the time when this wedding was happening. I highly doubt that it would be the bride and the groom that are the ones that have to take care of her at that time, if that actually is the issue. But realistically, it probably sounds like there's some other issue at play that we don't even know about. If the grandmother here was already in need of constant care, she probably would have mentioned that in the post to strengthen her argument, but she did it, which means that the grandmother probably doesn't need that. I just feel bad from the grandmother's perspective because she's probably really sad knowing that she actually does want to go be a part of this, but she's not wanted. If this was your fiance and you're about to get married, what would you tell them? Let me know down below in jerk or not a jerk and why. Am I the jerk for removing tree roots from my yard? My family and I moved into a new home this spring. We had previously lived in apartments and we now have our first yard for our kids to play in. The neighborhood we moved into has lots of mature trees, and this being the first time I've had to do my own yard work, there's been a learning curve. One of my neighbor's yard is separated from ours by a chain link fence. There is a large tree just on their side of the fence. Some roots from the tree spread into my yard, and some of them are growing onto the surface of the ground. They're visible and are above the ground quite a bit. About a month ago, my kids were running around and playing, and my daughter tripped on one of the roots. She fell and ended up breaking her wrist trying to catch herself. Of course, this was very upsetting to my wife and I, and she pretty much told me to do something about the roots so this couldn't happen again. So I bought some tools and started tearing the roots up as best I could. I got them to a point that nothing is sticking above the ground anymore and filled the top with fresh soil and grass seed. My neighbor must have noticed the work I did because he made a comment about the fresh soil. I told him I had to remove the roots as my daughter tripped on one. He asked what I meant by remove, and I told him I dug a bunch out and cut them out as best I could. He got pissed and told me that I probably killed his tree. I told him that removing a few roots isn't gonna hurt a tree that big, and they were creating a tripping hazard, and since they were in my yard, I did what I needed to do to remove them. He told me there were other ways to deal with roots like that instead of cutting them out and causing stress to the tree, and he would have gladly helped if I had asked. He said that tree is probably going to die, which means it is probably going to have to be removed, and said that a tree that large is going to cost thousands of dollars to take out. I told him that sounds ridiculously expensive. He said that if the tree dies and he has to have it cut out, he's going to ask me to pay for some of it because of what I did to the roots. I told him good luck with that, and then I'm not paying for anything for his tree. He called me a jerk and told me the previous neighbors at least had the decency to ask for help when they didn't know what the heck they were doing, instead of causing damage to other people's property. I told my wife about it, and she thinks this guy is just being a jerk and agrees with me that taking a few roots from the top of the ground isn't going to hurt a tree that big. She also agrees that there's no way that we are going to pay for anything for this guy's tree to be removed. We were just making sure our yard was safe for our kids to play in. It's not our fault his tree grew roots into our yard. So am I the jerk for removing the tree roots from my yard? So the OP starts off here by saying, this is the first time I've ever had to do my own yard work and there's been a bit of a learning curve. So he's already admitting that he doesn't know very much about yard work right off the bat, but yet also thinks that he is 100% in the right for doing this without ever checking to see if this is actually the right way to go about it, either from a political perspective, what the neighbor, or just how do trees work. And yeah, it actually is true. Having a tree removed is really expensive because you have to have all sorts of trucks that can actually carry the tree off and extract it and everything. It is definitely not cheap to have a tree removed. Whether or not the tree is actually going to die for sure is hard to say because we don't get to see how bad the damage to the roots were, but obviously damaging the tree's roots in general is not good for the tree. And as other people pointed out, the neighborly thing to do would be to talk about it with him before doing anything because yes, part of the roots are on your property, but the tree is his tree. Let me know if you're completely on the other side of this, and if so, what are your thoughts, and jerk or not a jerk, and why? When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories in this series, use the playlist at the top of the description. And next time you live stream, use the cream of the crop music. Search for Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever music platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your stream. It's free, Cream of the Stream. Either way, thanks a lot for listening. We'll see you guys next time.